everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Paranormal Among Us. On today's episode, we're going to switch gears away from ghost hunting and focus our attention on outer space. Are we alone in the universe? Personally, I highly doubt it. As big and massive as this universe is, there has to be another sun and planet relationship similar to the Earth's relationship with our sun that can sustain life. That's just my opinion, and many scientists are out there trying to prove that theory right now. But instead of looking outside of our solar system and galaxy, we just might need to look up in the sky. Reports of unidentified flying objects have been recorded almost since the time man set foot on this planet. More recently, from 1947 to 1969, the U.S. government ran an organization that studied UFOs called Project Blue Book, with a total of over 12,000 reported UFO sightings, and of those 12,000, only 701 remain unidentified. With Project Blue Book's termination in 1969, another organization came to life, the Midwest UFO Network. Directed by Alan Utke, they investigated UFO sightings in the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri. And it wasn't long for Mufon to outgrow its Midwestern boundaries and be renamed to what it's called today, the Mutual UFO Network. And they have investigated over 100,000 cases and are still going strong. Today I have the privilege of speaking with Ron James, filmmaker, on-camera personality, writer, editor, researcher, content creator, entrepreneur, and not to mention the director of media relations for Mufon and co-founder of MufonTV. Ron, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, I listen to people when they say that. I'm like, maybe I need to trim it down.
I haven't gotten to one thing yet, and that's going to be a
I'm
little
like,
bit later.
wow, that guy's done a lot. Oh, wait a minute, that's me. Oh, yeah, that's funny.
First things first, you've been involved with productions for musical acts such as Guns N' Roses, Smashing Pumpkins, the Beach Boys, and many more. Now you're bringing that production talent kind of out of this world, if you will. How did you get involved with Mufon?
Well, I've always owned a production company since I got into video, and the work that I do, for a living, I do a lot of music video stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've worked with all those bands that you mentioned and more, which is kind of fun. I'm still doing music video work even today. But in 2009, I was hired to live stream a UFO conference, and it was at that conference that I realized that I'd always been kind of an armchair aficionado, but not really doing much in the topic except reading the books and magazines and watching the shows. But at this conference, I got to talk to people that are really involved, and I came to understand that we're dealing with the biggest deception in human history. Mm-hmm. And so I just took it up as one of my causes, that I wanted to do something to help peel away the onion.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I've noticed in the past 5-10 years there's been so much more on television and everything about UFO phenomenon and everything. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's always been one of the hottest topics in pop culture, and because of the 2017 revelations, if you want to call them that, mm-hmm. It's been brought to the forefront again. But what a lot of people don't realize is that this topic has had these surges in popularity since the 40s, where mm-hmm. there would just be huge amounts of public interest. And then there would be very similar to what we're seeing now, a little bit of dog and pony show through the political process. And then it all kind of tamps down, and there's no real new information coming out, no revelations, no actual disclosure of the truth. And then it just kind of fades away, and another 10 years it'll pop back up. So obviously we're hoping this time is different.
Let me ask you a quick question. Do you think that the government's ever going to come out and say, yeah, we have alien spacecrafts, we have aliens? Do you think that's ever going to happen?
I think that something similar is going to happen sooner or later. Mm-hmm. But what we're seeing right now is a very elaborate narrative that has been created to fit the modern era. And there's technologies that were discovered, there's materials that were discovered that have
Mm-hmm.
been ported off to private industry, just kind of like what Philip Corso said in his book The Day After Roswell, although I'm not signing on to actually being 100% supportive of that book. Something very similar did occur and has occurred and is occurring. And what we're seeing now with the latest revelations, with the stuff that's coming up through the DIRDs that were released by the Pentagon, the Defense Intelligence
Mm-hmm.
reference documents talking about all of these different technologies. There's Freedom of Information Act requests that talk about technology and materials that were connected with UFOs.
Right.
And we're beginning to get the picture of a reverse engineering program that has been going on for a long time, a study of materials that are not originated from Earth that has been going on for a long time. And my new film right here, Accidental Truth, that comes out on the 18th, we actually come as close to blowing the lid off this as humanly possible without being able to get our hands on these materials and show them to people. They're real. Their history is somewhat trackable,
Mm-hmm.
and we have official government documents and accidental admissions by some of the people involved as to what's really going on. So between the civilians pushing the issue and what the government and what Congress actually wants to see happen, we're going to get some more information, and we might get information that we're not alone in the universe. That would be great. Are we ever going to get the whole story? We're not going to get it because it's the biggest deception ever. And the people that are responsible for it have legal liability for what they've done. And so until the last one of them is off the planet and until the cover up is complete, it's going to be impossible for these guys to come out because they cannot afford the culpability.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned your movie coming out, Accidental Truth, UFO Revelations. How long has that been in the works for you?
It's been about 2 years since I started the edit.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the interviews are tracking people's statements going back as far as 2009 of original interviews that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nick Pope, who's a friend of mine, he's in the movie from 3 different interviews.
Oh,
And as the narrative has changed, Nick has adopted to whatever the narrative is, and done a good job of conveying the current, towing the current line, so to speak,
mm-hmm.
which is not something I criticize him for. He's a lot of these guys that are in this movie are duty bound to be a part of whatever they're told the story is.
Right.
And at first, when I first started producing it, I was very angry and I blamed these guys for being part of this deception. And I've come to realize over the time that it took to make the movie that it's not as much like that as we think. The
Mm-hmm.
people that have this information, the people that have been keeping it a secret, they are not anybody you're ever going to see on TV. They're not anybody you're ever going to see in a documentary. And the people that you do see are just doing the best they can to balance what they know with what they know they can talk about without getting in trouble. And so I don't envy any of them. And I'm not angry at any of them anymore either.
Right. And I'll have the link to the YouTube channel that has a trailer for Accidental Truth on the bottom throughout this interview. So um, after the interview, feel free to click on that. Keep watching here. Now, as we're getting closer to the release date, April 18th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get any backlash from government or anyone else since you've started working on this project?
It's been the scariest thing I ever did in my life. I mean, the, and when people see this film, they're going to understand it's not pulling any punches. There's people that are in the film that are refusing to support it. Uh, I was completely under surveillance the whole time that I was making this movie. I would wake up in the middle of the night and my computer is chattering away because I could tell my data is being transferred somewhere.
Really?
Um, I've been followed, I've been surveilled, I've been bugged. I mean, being the media relations director for Mufon, they're constantly under scrutiny anyway. And doing this film, yeah, there were times, and I'm not going to say that I had 100% valid reason but I'd say I had about an 80% valid reason for really wondering if it was ever going to see the light of day. In fact, it's 6 days away from the release right now, and I'm still not going to be surprised if some major shoe drops and keeps it from the public. It's been a very, very scary process. When people see the movie, they're going to understand why.
Yeah. I mean, that I can't imagine getting all this way and then, seconds before it's supposed to drop, then pull the plug on it. That would just be heartbreaking.
Yeah, it would be very heartbreaking, but
Yeah.
I have already seen enough things happen, just
Hmm.
bizarre things that defy explanation, that until it's out, I'm still not resting easy. There's still a
Yeah.
part, even though yesterday conversations with the distributor, nothing's going to stop it. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I won't feel that until it's done.
Hey, that's kind of how I feel with these computer issues that we both had. I won't believe this until things are working here. Where can people find the movie?
It'll be everywhere that you can access movies on digital distribution. It's getting 1091's distributing it, so they're pretty good
Hmm.
at getting stuff out there. So it'll be on Roku, it'll be on Amazon Prime. You can already pre-order it on Amazon and iTunes and Apple TV. It'll be on Google, Hulu, yeah, all everywhere that you can rent a movie. You can get it. You could pre-order it on Vimeo right now. So
So there's
it's
no
already
reason
out
for
there.
anybody to miss that.
No, and
Okay.
I should mention that it's got a great cast, but it's also narrated by Matthew Modine, who is
Hmm.
Papa from Stranger Things and Joker from Full Metal Jacket. So it's got an A-list cast. We've got Congressman Tim Burchett in it making original appearances. We've got Dr. Michio Kaku, arguably the world's most famous scientist, weighing
Hmm.
in heavily on extraterrestrial technology. We have Dr. Gary Nolan, who has studied anomalous materials
Hmm.
and can admit some of it and can't admit all of it. But we try.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got Nick Pope and Richard Dolan are in it. They do really good at anchoring it. Ralph Blumenthal, the guy that broke the 2017 New York Times story,
Hmm.
he's in it. So it's an all-star cast.
That's awesome. Can't wait to see it next week. Um, and of course, best of luck to you on the release date, and hope it goes smoothly and without any hiccups or anything.
I know it sounds so stupid to be saying things like that. Like, oh, I don't know. I was really, but I've lived this whole thing, and it's like I don't even want to say things like, there were times when I
Yeah.
didn't think I was going to finish this, but there were, and who knows the implications once it comes out.
Yeah.
Um, I'm bracing myself.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's a smooth go of it there. Let's get back to MUFON a little bit here.
Sure.
It's not affiliated with the U.S. government in any way. Is that correct?
No, MUFON's not affiliated with the U.S. government in any way.
Okay.
Now, there's rumors about that. It's pretty funny. You do have to understand though that if you're an organization like MUFON, where
Hmm.
you have a worldwide organization of nearly 6,000 people all studying UFOs, you are going to attract the attention of the US government. You're going to attract the attention of the people that are managing this information. You're going to be constantly under surveillance, and you're going to be
Hmm.
infiltrated by people that are trying to glean information and for lack of a better phrase, spy on the organization. That's
Hmm.
just a given. Now, is there an official thing where MUFON is like collaborating in secret with the government, like people like to say? That's not happening. We are in Washington,
Right.
D.C. right now, having a seat at the table finally as a civilian organization. Uh, MUFON was behind uh, helping to get those hearings done that
Hmm.
happened that we haven't been able to talk about, but we could talk about it now. And so, for all the people out there trying to take credit for being involved in that, um, we don't know of any other party that really had a hand in significantly getting that done. Um, we worked with Gallagher, Gillibrand, and
Hmm.
Andre Carson, who I had lunch with not too long ago,
Sweet.
to make those hearings happen. And it was MUFON that did it. And we've been instrumental in this new legislation that's bringing out military accountability and whistleblower protection. We actually helped write some of that language and got it through. So we haven't been able to talk a lot about what we've been doing in Washington, D.C. because these
Hmm.
relationships are hard to forge, but now we can. And so is MUFON affiliated with the government? Right now, we're certainly working with them to bring about disclosure, but we're doing it in a transparent manner. And do we have anybody from the government telling us what we can and cannot do? Absolutely not. And I would know because
Yeah.
I have MUFON TV. This movie is in association with MUFON TV. I can personally say that I have never been approached by anybody and told not to take a position. And if you follow my podcast, I'm pretty outspoken.
Sweet. And basically, ever since Project Blue Book was terminated in '67, outside of ATIP, the U.S. government really hasn't been involved in UFO investigation, really, have they?
Yeah, that's the
That we
biggest
know
joke
about, I
ever.
guess we should say.
Well, that's what Accidental Truth is about. It's
Yeah.
about examining that time between the end of Project Blue Book and the beginning of ATIP and exposing the fact that that's a complete lie.
Hmm.
The government's been involved in dozens of programs. We have brought in somebody who actually admits to running one of them, that and talks about how the government's been tracking UFOs for a very long time, and that when they studied this 40 years ago, they found the same things that ATIP found, that these vehicles are displaying flight characteristics that we can't do. But we have the guy that did it, and his background is verifiable. For the first time admitting this stuff. And yeah, so that's what Accidental Truth is about. It's not only about the fact that government programs continued past Blue Book, it's about what those programs were, what we are able to make a pretty good case for them discovering, and how they were sequestered and how they were hidden. And yeah, so the study never stopped.
Hmm. Okay. I know you can visit MUFON at MUFON.com. There's a lot of great information on there, old cases, new cases, classic cases, research, news, and much, much more. There's also a link for people to report UFO encounters. Tell us a little bit about that reporting process and how people can go about if they perhaps see one.
Yeah, so anybody that sees a UFO, MUFON maintains the world's largest database of UFO sightings, going
Mhm.
back almost 55 years now, well over 120,000 reports. Um, our database is coveted by many, many, many people, but
Mhm.
but we've done this, and so when people have an encounter, and it can be a sighting, it could be a physical encounter, even an experiential encounter, we have a reporting process for that. You go to the website, you turn in the report, it's forwarded to whoever in your local area is the state director or the regional director, and it's evaluated for whether we're just going to archive your report, which most times is what happens. We don't have the people to reach out to everybody that files a report, but the ones that have merit, such as quality video, multiple witnesses, potential physical evidence, or experiencer cases where somebody is describing something that has happened to them that is consistent with what we're hearing from other people, chances are somebody will get back to you and actually pursue your case a little further. But so yeah, we do all of that stuff. And one thing that we've really done and excelled at recently is the further development of our experiencer resource team, because what we're finding out is that more and more people are having these experiences they can't explain, but the
Mhm.
similarities are completely off the charts. It's like it's got millions of people all over the world, literally millions, having the same experience, um, with the same consistent elements. And so something's going on.
Mhm.
And we talk a little bit about that in the movie.
Okay. It, I guess in the past, reporting UFOs would be like taboo almost. People, think, "Hey, man, you're nuts seeing those aliens out there." Do you still find people with that attitude at all?
I think that the official viewpoint on on this has been way behind the eight ball as far as the public viewpoint. Since Ancient Aliens and a lot of these shows have come out, I think pretty much everybody will at least agree that there's probably life in outer space that's not us, and that the government knows a lot more about it than they're telling us. And when you say the government, we're not talking about necessarily the front-facing government, but we're talking about these long sequestered programs that have been buried in private industry with minimal government interface. So it's a broad paintbrush when you say the government, but I think most people would agree on those two facts. And now finally we have some official admissions. Navy pilots are actually supposed to report UFOs now. So the official vernacular has caught up with what people in the public have pretty much figured out for a long time.
And I honestly believe, as big as this universe is, there's got to be a sun planet relationship like we have with our sun, that there's got to be life someplace. I mean, it's just way too big of a universe to not have that happen. I mean, that's just my opinion.
There's not a scientist really out there in the modern day that would argue that point with you. Almost everybody of a scientific bent will agree that the odds of life in outer space far exceed the case against it. Mm-hmm. But what we're also discovering is that, what's our definition of life? As one of the people in the film says, that very prominent, we don't know. And we don't know what all of what's causing the UFO phenomenon. Even if there is a history of an extraterrestrial visitation and that's been studied and covered up and reverse engineered and blah, 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 it doesn't explain everything. And so we have to look at other possibilities, interdimensional beings, beings that have been here on the earth, underground or underwater. There's all kinds of different explanations, and no one explanation fits all of what we're seeing.
Right. Well, Ron, I greatly appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck with Accidental Truth. We will be watching, and I will have links for all this for you down here.
Okay, yeah, I'll send them to you here in a little bit. And thanks for having me on.
All right, I appreciate it, Ron James. Thank you very much. As far as MUFON goes, go to MUFON.com. That's MUFO.com. And check out their website. Like I said before, lots to look at there, including some old UFO cases. And there's also a link there for MufonTV, or you can go to MufonTelevision.com and see some free content plus much more if you want to subscribe to the service. My thanks to Ron James for taking the time to chat with us today. His new movie, Accidental Truth, UFO Revelations, comes out on April 18th on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Hulu, you name it, it'll be there. I will be certain to check it out as well, so make sure you do too. And thank you for watching. If you or someone you know has a paranormal story to share, please email me at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. That's paranormalamongus72@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to read the story on a future episode. For now, stay safe out there, everyone, and I will see you on the next episode of Paranormal Among Us.